You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this episode of Visibly Fit. I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and you can now find this podcast on the Edify app, so go check that out. But my question for you today is it worth it? You may be saying, what, Wendie? Is what worth it? Healing. Is healing worth the work? Yeah, that's right. Because it does take work. It's a process. And healing comes in different forms for different people, and different people have different areas in which they need to heal in. And I think most people think that, oh, you know what? I'm just overweight. I need to attack my physical well-being, when really there's some underlying surface things that need to be healed. And that is really the bigger work. And so I want to talk a little bit about small T and big T trauma. So we've all had trauma on some level or another, whether again, it's small T trauma or big T trauma. And we may have had it ourselves. We may have seen someone else experience that trauma, which caused us trauma. We may have actually even perceived our own trauma. Yeah, that's right. By just observing other people's stories and comparing and wanting a story. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I love this. I love getting into the psyche of all of it, because we as human beings are quite interesting. We are very interesting people, and quite complicated, really. And we all are different. We're all wired differently. We have all been through different circumstances. But what I find so powerful is that you can overcome small T or big T trauma. And when I say small T, it just means that if you were to look at someone else's trauma that was more in magnitude, yours might seem like a small T if we were to compare at all. But trauma is still trauma. And everyone has to deal with their own set of issues, basically, and come to the realization that, okay, I'm willing to do the hard stuff. I'm willing to do the work that it takes. And I actually read a classic book not too long ago, and many of you, I'm sure, have read it. And if you haven't, I highly recommend it. But it's by Viktor Frankl. That's right. If you probably already know what I'm going to say, but it's A Man's Search for Meaning. And Man's Search for Meaning is really what his entire therapy is all about. He's a neurologist and a psychiatrist, and he overcame the tragedy of dealing with the Holocaust. He's a Holocaust survivor, and this book is no easy read. I'll tell you, it's gut wrenching. It's hard to read, and yet it's hard to put down because it's so powerful. And you just understand that, wow, you know, the will to live is really there for some. And then for some, that will is just fizzled out if their expectations don't come to fruition, or if in their mind's eye something doesn't come to pass. For instance, there's a story in the book that talks about one of the guys that was in the Holocaust camp, in the Nazi camp with him, really was banking. I mean, seriously, like just counting down the days of when they were told that they would be released. And I don't remember the day, but I think it was in December or something. But when that day didn't come, he died shortly after. like, I want to say the very next day or the next 2 days after. Like, he was just, the will to survive just was snuffed out. And so what Victor really talks about is having that will to survive even in the midst of the most tragic of traumas. And what's that all about? And it's understanding the meaning, your purpose. And so, this bigger meaning to life is that, um, as far as like your calling, that's part of your meaning, but the meaning of your life you get to discover, and you get to just unveil. But God really created you for his glory and for his purposes. And when we really understand that we were all created for such a time as this, no matter what the time of this is for your life and when you're listening, he's created you for now. And again, it's for his glory. And so how are we living up to that? And does that mean that we're supposed to live some perfect life? Absolutely not. But it's to become more and more and more pruned, if you will, pruned so that we can flourish and really understand the reason why we're here and what makes us tick and what keeps us going. And so what is that for you? And so that's a loaded question, I know, because it takes a lot of years sometimes to unravel and really go about the repairing process of healing. And so I bring this up because, I mean, I'm no psychiatrist, but sometimes I feel like I am, in the sense of all the years of working with my clients, over 2 decades of working with incredible human beings. And I have just heard story after story of just how people have overcome certain scenarios that are just like, wow, they're just so gut wrenching. And yet they're not fully healed from it. They continue to play out the past, and it doesn't become as far of a distant memory as it could and should be. And that's part of the healing process. And so we as human beings we are capable of reordering our memories, recreating them, in the sense that we can be an observer of maybe what happened to us or what we saw happen in someone's life, so that we can see it kind of from a bird's eye view as an observer and have compassion for yourself or that individual going through that scenario, and have a different level of forgiveness. And again, I know y'all have heard me talk about this so often, but I know that the key to fitness and health and longevity and healing is forgiveness. That is the key. And so one of my podcasts, I talk all about forgiveness, and I'll put that in the show notes in case you haven't listened to it, but I talk about the power of the F word, and about, F this and F that. That's right. Forgive this and forgive that. And your life will go so much better for you. I recently had Dr. Contreras on the podcast, and he is with the Oasis of Hope Medical Center, and they deal with a lot of cancer patients. And he really talked about the underlying reason that cancer really starts to show up in the body, and that's fear and anger. And it's just amazing how when we hang on to certain scenarios and we don't see past them and get that healing, it manifests in our body. And so I really want to ask you, is it worth it? Is it worth digging in and getting to the root of the issue and getting healed once and for all? And I would say, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it might be multiple people that might help you along that journey, but do the work. You really do deserve to have that that area in your heart or in your emotions, in your mind, your physical well-being. You deserve to be healed. And so it's understanding that first and foremost, that you do deserve it. You are worthy. Now I'm going to read something actually from Viktor Frankl's book, and it's revolved around his logotherapy that he teaches. And that logotherapy, again, is really finding one's purpose, meaningful life's meaning for them and in their life. And so it says that there's three main avenues on which one arrives at the meaning in life. The first is by creating a work or by doing a deed. And so if you are feeling stuck and stagnant and you're not doing a good work, you know, the Bible tells us to do a good work, right? But and he's also doing a good work in us, by the way. But we got to be doing something. We can't just be sitting on the couch and stewing over the very thing that is traumatic over and over and over again and reliving it. We have to be working on ourselves to heal that situation, and doing a good deed for others that always brings about healing in your heart and in your own emotions. And you see that life is bigger than just yourself, right? That there's others to care for and that there's meaning in that. And then it says the second is by experiencing something or encountering someone. In other words, meaning can be found not only in work, but also in love. Absolutely. We are to love our neighbors as ourselves, right? And so if we can find meaning in love, the power of love is grandiose. I mean, it will heal us to our core, and God is love, right? And so when we understand that and we start to understand the vibrational frequency of love, it takes us to a whole nother level. It helps us have compassion and forgiveness on a whole nother level. And that allows us to do that work, to do that deed, to do the thing that may be difficult for ourselves and for others. And so love is one of those things that it helps us arrive at the meaning in life. And then the third, he says, the third avenue to meaning in life, it says, even the helpless victim of a hopeless situation, facing a fate he cannot change, may rise above himself, may grow beyond himself, and by so doing, change himself. He may turn a personal tragedy into a triumph, right? Like how many overcomer stories have you heard time and time again? You look at God's word and you see so many incredible tragedy to triumph stories. You see a lot of tragedy stories too, but such is life, right? But we get to choose how we show up in that tragedy in order to turn it into a triumphant situation. We can be bitter, or we can become better. We can decide to allow God to take us to another level in our healing and in our growth, and see the opportunity in this thing called life and the meaning that rests in the life that we're living. Or we can just become bitter and angry and resentful and sit on the couch and, eat all your cares away. And yet that's just for a fleeting moment, right? Eating your cares away only brings on more issues. But I do believe that there's something so beautiful about understanding that the tough stuff that you've gone through, that we've all gone through, and while some of us have gone through things harder than others, I get that, but it's still trauma. You still have to get through it. And it's understanding that, wow, okay, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So it's not just me, that it's not like I'm, I can do it myself kind of attitude. It's understanding that, wow, we have a great creator, and he wants to do life with us, and he will get us through any situation. So no matter what traumatic situation you've been through, you can come out on the other side triumphant and as an overcomer. So I'm reminded of just our focus. Are you focused on where you desire to be in life and where you want to go and grow? Or are you sucked in and pulled away by distractions, even by the distraction of your small t or big T trauma, right? I understand that. It can continually play out in your mind until you decide to take ownership of what's going on and do the work necessary. And that's going to see, a psychiatrist, someone like myself that can get you through the emotional, mental, physical, and mindset piece of the puzzle. Going to, gosh, a Bible study, just walking outside and letting the Lord speak to you. There's so many different avenues, right? And it's not just a one and done situation. It's a continual process, I believe, until the day we die, in the sense that we will continue to grow if we choose to, and continue to learn more about ourselves, become more confident in who God created us to be, and really understand our meaning in this life. And that's what propels us to do those things at a greater capacity that changes the world, quite honestly. So where are you in that space? Is it worth it? Is it worth it to do the work for healing? And that's a question you get to ask yourself. But as far as focus, I want to go back to that word focus and then distractions, because Proverbs 4:23 tells us, let your eyes look directly ahead and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. So often we want to look back, right? We want to look back a little bit like Lot's wife after, leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, and thinking, oh, I just want one last look. And she turned to a pillar of salt, right? She was disobedient and did the very thing that she shouldn't have done. And that's looked back and lingered at what she might be missing. And that could even be that story that you've been living out for so long. Sometimes we want to continue to stay there and keep looking back, when really we want to press ahead and be present and look straight in front of us. And as we are looking straight in front of us, I want to bring up Philippians 4:8, and I have it right here on my phone, actually. And that scripture is, speaking of focusing, what do we focus on? We focus on whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice. And so it's that looking ahead to what is true and what is lovely and right. And when we stay stuck in that small t, big T trauma, and it's not right, it's not lovely, it's not admirable, it's not pure and noble, it's disgusting and it's sinful, right? Then it keeps us in that place of dis-ease in our body. So where are you today? Where are you when it comes to that? Are you really seeking the help that you deserve? And are you understanding that it's okay to have help? In fact, it's really okay. I mean, we're supposed to be doing life as community. Community is important. We learn from one another. Iron sharpens iron. And for you to think that you have to do this thing alone, you don't. You really just don't. And you know, it's a healing process. It's a journey, and it's very individualized. Okay. But it must be intentionally thought and acted upon, and using different healing modalities, because what works for one person isn't going to work for another, but you've got to find the thing that works for you so that you can really be set free. And, I can say, here's the top 5 things to do, and I might do that, but, but it's for you to discover, right? And it's for you to put into practice, because I think of some of my clients and how the ones that, had great success, and everyone that's gone through my program has had success, right? But the ones that have had great success were the ones that didn't have to be prodded along. Like, they were really ready to do the work. Their pain was greater than their circumstance, and they were just ready for change. So I've got to ask you, are you ready for change? And can you see on the other side of what that healing would look like? And is it worth it? Start to visualize what your life would look like if you didn't have the small t and big T trauma hanging over your head or weighing you down every day of your life, that you were set free of that. and that you didn't, you know, move into trying to eat your way to to a different state of being, because that's not a healing place to be. You want to eat to live, and so when you're eating to heal, and then it changes how your cells operate. You reduce inflammation. It changes the way that your hormones are calibrated, and the hormones that are being released in your body. It changes everything. When you start to move your body to heal, it changes everything. Choosing joy to heal, laughter to heal, self-care, again, caring for others, and then having just gratitudes, prayer, meditation. All those things are so important. So what are you doing today that's getting you to that next place in your healing? And if you are like, I don't know, I'm just stuck. There's so many things out there. There's this person tells me this person tells me that. Well, I just want to invite you just to be still, just to be still and listen to what God has for you today. He will guide your next steps. Okay. Because there are a lot of, it's noisy out there. There's a lot of people telling you need to do this, you need to do that. And hey, I'm one of those as well, right? I'm one of those people suggesting things that you can do to better your life. But the truth is only you know what to do and what those next steps are, because God will guide you. It is an individual journey and process. And so I just want to encourage you to be courageous, because it can feel a little scary. There might be some fearful, whatever emotion around it. Maybe you just don't want to go there because it's painful. You might cry, all those things. But I want to invite you to just go there, because when God is there with you, and he always is, but when you allow him to be there with you, he will guide your next steps. He will heal those wounds. He will heal those places where you just thought there wasn't a way to ever be healed. And he will bring those people to you that will allow that next kind of, pass the baton kind of situation where, oh, this person is the person that I'm, will help you along in this area or that. When the student is ready, the teacher always appears. So start looking for those teachers that God puts in your path as you go along the journey of life. And just know that, gosh, I mean, we don't want to give up on life. Life is just full of surprises, and it's mysterious and it's miraculous. And if we give up on life, we miss out on all that God has for us. We miss out on the blessings that he has for us. And you don't see what's coming around the corner that is like, oh my gosh, that was such a God moment. That was like, God-sized fingerprints all over that situation. And if you end up staying stuck and in that kind of place of doom and gloom and always in that trauma place, then you don't see it. You actually, you don't recognize what God is even doing in your life. And you can't count your blessings and have gratitude in your life because you can't really even see it, right? You're blinded by the old story. And so I want to invite you, as you contemplate and as you go through the process of finding out, all right, God, where do you want me to go? What's my next step of healing? And recognize that, okay, I can see this from a different viewpoint. I can literally remove myself from this trauma and have compassion for that person that's been through the trauma, and have a different level of, compassion, a different level of forgiveness, and see that story as a different story and rewrite it. I talk a lot about this really because, I have found time and time again, it doesn't matter how often I instruct people to eat a certain way or to exercise and move a certain way. If the underlying issues are not taken care of, the other will not become sticky in their life, right? It'll just become like, it may happen here and there. And, there's these atta girl moments or atta boy moments, but it doesn't remain sticky. And it's because there's not that meaning that's holding up all the healthy habits, right? You got to have that meaning, and it's that why. But understanding the meaning of life for you and for all of us, but understanding it for you, and as you heal through your traumas, big T or little t, it gives you that desire and that will to press ahead and move forward. So I just wanted to share that with you today, because I believe in you. And sometimes you just need someone to say, I believe in you. So as you might be walking today, I want you to hear that in your ears. I believe in you. So the question is, do you believe in you? And if you don't, surround yourself with people who do believe in you. And eventually you'll catch on and you will start to believe in all that God has for you and the ways in which he's healing you. But you got to take that step. And again, it takes courage, it takes boldness, but it takes intentionality. So I invite you to do that today and to take that next step. I bring on experts here on this podcast all the time. You can learn from, you can glean from. We can hear messages time and time and time again. I share my expertise on this podcast, but if you aren't willing to do the work, you'll never change. So you have to just decide, I'm ready, I'm all in. And it has to be the not just a little toe in the water, but 2 feet in, jump in with both feet. And that means mind, body, spirit, emotions, wherever you're feeling that place of brokenness and not feeling whole and not understanding the meaning in your life, it's time that you got that healed. Okay. So do the work, my friend. You deserve it. All right. I'm so excited about next week's podcast because, attitude is everything, and it can really help you live a long, long life that's full of vitality and health. And so I can't wait for you to tune in to the next episode of Visibly Fit. But if you are in a place where you're like, you know what, I'm ready. I want to jump in with both feet, and I want to take my health and my life seriously, and I really want to grasp the meaning of my life, then feel free to just send me an email. Or if you're ready to jump in, I have a 7-week course and it's life-changing. Go to getvisiblyfit.com if you want to learn more there. But yeah, I'm on social media, and I'm just an email away, or on social media, just a little message away. So just feel free to reach out to me. That's why I'm here. I love supporting others, and I love helping people see who they really are in Christ and see that they do deserve to be healed and whole once and for all. So anyway, God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And again, if you know somebody that could benefit from this podcast, please share it, rate it, give it a review if you're open to that. I really appreciate you so very much. All right, we'll catch you next time on the next episode of Visibly Fit. Till then, make it a great day.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a Visibly Fit day.